What's going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. Time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. Let's get into the books I read this week. Starting over in Marvel. We only have one Marvel book this week, but it is Coast Avengers issue number 1. So Gary Duggan is on this one. That's why I'm jumping in here, seeing what's going on in here. So if you've been reading the newest Iron Man run, you know that he's lost all of his money again. He's going back to basics, all this stuff. This is taking place around the same time. He's teaming up with some unlikely allies inside of like the West Coast area, and they're fighting crime, doing whatever they can do. He does find himself a new suit in here, and he kind of pieces that together. The team, as alluded to on cover A right here, also includes Jessica Drew, we have Ultron, we have War Machine, and we have Blue Bolt as well. So there's some interesting characters inside of here. Can you trust them? Can you not? That's what basically this book is all about. So we touch base on all the different characters and everything, and I will say it's kind of boring, to be honest with you, the whole thing. There is this thing happening at the very end that kind of confuses me because, I don't know, it has to deal with Ultron. Everyone doesn't really understand, like, is he a hero? Is he not? Something like that, right? And so he's kind of playing both sides at this moment, and we're going to see how that all plays out towards the end. But West Coast Avengers, not a great story, not a great issue number 1. Art wasn't too impressive either. I don't know. What'd you guys think? Let me know. Let's jump over to DC now with Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 2. Loved issue number 1. It's my favorite Absolute title out right now. Probably Batman and then Superman in that order, in case you cared. But Absolute Wonder Woman was the only book of the Absolute line right now that really gave us a lot of information about this Absolute version of the character. Everything else focused on the world a little bit more, and the character was kind of like a side thing, right? This book is focusing on Wonder Woman, which I love. I love the spin on her origin story and how it like shaped her. And where we are today is really interesting. She's fighting this giant kaiju monster right now. Hayden Sherman is killing it with this art. So good. We have Jordi Belair on here as well. The story is really compelling. It has that Wonder Woman vibe to it, but it's in this Absolute universe, and it just is working for me. We have Steve Trevor in here, and of course we have Diana dealing with the US military. What are we doing about all these kaijus? How can we team up in the future? That's what this issue is all about. We have tons of little moments in this book too that just really worked. Art spectacular. It's very true to the Wonder Woman character. It's the best Absolute book I think out right now. Let me know if you guys read it down below. Justice League Unlimited, we have issue number 1. We have Wade on this one. We have Mora, and we have Bond Villain, of course. Now, if you read the all-in big issue that came out, it was like a flip-flop issue. It was really interesting. The setup for this entire thing was handled pretty well, I think. This is the first issue going into all that, and I gotta say it was a little bit of a dud for me. Now, story-wise, it was a dud, but artistically speaking, it's gorgeous, of course, right? Dan Mora is on this thing, and he's doing some really impressive things. Coloring is right on point as well. So artistically, it's a really well done book, but I really haven't quite bought into this whole, like, everyone's a Justice League member at this point. They're fighting some kind of a weird villain inside of this first issue that I couldn't quite get my grasp on, but it's like an all hands on deck kind of a situation, and they're just doing the best they can, and there's this like alien aspect to it in a way. So we're going to be diving into that a little bit more. We got to run down real quick just in case, you didn't read the first issue or you want to get caught up. A little bit of an explanatory part in here where the Flash is running this new hero around the Watchtower, quickly introducing him to everybody. So, that was handled pretty well in a creative way to like bring people up to speed in a new number 1. So props to them for that. But I gotta say, like, besides a bunch of explosions and fire and people shouting and screaming everywhere, like I couldn't get a good grasp on the villain itself. There's some other things hinted inside this book, some directions it might go from like a future villain perspective. And of course we get the little Hush preview towards the end over here. It's like 4 pages. Jim Lee obviously on it. Not a whole lot explained, obviously. It's just like a little prelude, right? So Justice League Unlimited, issue number 1. It was okay. What did you guys think? Tom Taylor on Detective Comics 1091. So I picked this one up because I was reading the Rom V run. I really enjoyed that one, the flow of it, the pace, the different artists that jumped on board. It was like one of the only books when I didn't mind a new artist hopping on because they were like the best of the best, right? Very well done. So jumping into this one, a little bit hesitant, right? New artist, new writer, whatever. But I gotta say it's fairly interesting, right? So Batman's getting older, of course, inside these different stories, and he's wearing out a little bit. And this book really hits that home, right? He's like jumping through car windows, taking out these villains in this heist or whatever. And he's noticing his knee hurting. He's noticing the ankle pains or whatever, right? He's not getting up as quick. He's not as fast. His reaction times are a little bit slowed. He has an opportunity working with someone that's close to him to maybe enhance himself a little bit with the pharmaceuticals and whatnot. So he's exploring that a little, right? He's doing some investigation of whether or not he should. He's asking even like some of his friends, you know what I mean? If that's a good thing to do. And some of them think it's a noble path and whatnot. So he's exploring this, and we're going to see what the repercussions of this are, because I would imagine that it's not going to all be, sunshines and rainbows, right? He might take this drug and things might happen. But I will say that the story behind or around all of this is pretty interesting. There's some investigations going on. There's a murder and whatnot. And Batman's just trying to figure out how he can stay relevant. So it's got some pretty cool things going for it so far. But Detective Comics 1091, let me know if you're reading this one. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let's jump over to some indie comics real quick. We have from Scout Comics Milk Run issue number 1. Pretty cool premise here. We have a guy who can go back in time. He's not using it for like really noble purposes just yet, like buying groceries and stuff, like things that are cheaper in the past. He's taking advantage of that power right there. But he also mentors this young child who is orphaned, and he's going through the system right now. It's very tough for him, and his parents' murder is actually unsolved. So maybe we're going to start using our powers for something greater than what we have been before. So we're starting to dip into this a little bit more. It's going to be like a detective kind of a story. There might be some weird timey-wimey stuff that's going to be happening in here eventually. So it's got me really intrigued. The interior artwork is pretty solid as well. This guy's like reliving the death of this kid's parents over and over again, trying to like figure out what exactly is going on. So Milk Run issue number 1, it's actually pretty intriguing. Let me know if you read it down below. Let's talk about TMNT issue number 4, Jason Aaron on this one. And we kind of got the team together towards the end of this book. Every issue that has come out is focusing on a single turtle, dealing with whatever they were dealing with at the end of issue 150 from the legacy numbering. And, if they were okay, to be honest with you. Like the back half of each issue when they finally got together was interesting, but like I don't really care where they are right now. To be honest, I kind of wanted a reboot, honestly. But we have this one right here. So we're dealing with whatever baggage we had from the previous run. And so, new readers, they might be interested in this, they might not. But this is probably my favorite issue of the 4 that we've gotten so far. This one's featuring Donatello. He's locked up. He's doing some like animal cage fighting or mutant cage fighting things right now. And he's just having to deal with like whatever scumbag comes next. Of course, just like the other issues, the Foot comes in here and, starts making some trouble for him and whatnot. He's trying to figure out creative ways to get out of there. Eventually his brothers show up and like the gang is back together. But, everybody's a little bit down right now. Donatello's essentially lost his mind being in captivity for so long. Everybody has their baggage since they've been alone that they're having to deal with. And now they're a team again. So like, what does that mean? We're going to be figuring it out in subsequent issues. There's also a hint of Casey Jones maybe joining the team here towards the end of this book. That's kind of where we're headed right now, if you believe the cover art for issue number 5. But TMNT number 4 is out. It was okay. What do you guys think? Ghost Machine had 2 different books out this week that I read. We have Hyde Street issue number 2. Spectacular read. Issue number 1 was so good, introducing us to this like haunted street, right? Lots of familiar vibes with other series and whatnot. But this one right here is focusing on our little Boy Scout right here. And he's such a cool demonic character. He's been at this for so long, getting souls for the cause. And we explore that a little bit more at the end of this book too, but we essentially get a sense of his power set in here. He's haunting this cop who's got a dark secret. This cop, he's used to like pushing his weight around. He's an authoritative figure, you know what I mean? And this little kid is defenseless, helpless, or so it seems. But this kid is obviously well-equipped, demonic. He has tons of cool powers and whatnot that we see on full display within this issue. So yeah, I had a great time reading this one, and I loved all the little tidbits about the world in general, and like who really runs this and the different rules and everything. So this book is turning into something really spectacular. It's quickly climbing that ladder of like what's the best Ghost Machine books out there. Loving this one. Let me know if you read it. Next up in the Ghost Machine universe, we have Hornsby and Halo issue number 1 from Peter Tomasi. Now, this book looks and it feels like a book that was written for a younger audience, but you're still going to get a kick out of this one. Pretty interesting premise, I think. We basically have angels and demons. They've been warring forever, and they actually give up one of their kids on each side to these different humans. parents. But the angels give up their child to some humans that are like pieces of crap, right? They don't treat their kid very well. The devils, they give up their kid to somebody who gives them tons of support and whatever. So it's like the opposite. And there's going to be some prophecies that are going to come out of that. We're going to see how these kids turn out, in other words, anything to keep the peace. So we get a little bit of a hint of that towards the beginning of this book. But majority of this book is dealing with these kids on their upcoming birthday when they're 13, and just like a day in the life kind of a situation right here. Then all of a sudden their powers blossom, and we get to see exactly what that means in here, the different power sets and whatnot. So it's a really cool like coming of age story with angels and demons and the kids, how they're connected, what are they going to do with their newfound power. Interesting first issue right here, Hornsby and Halo. Let me know if you read it down below. Next up is Void Rivals. We have issue number 14, Robert Kirkman on this one. This one feels very much like every other issue that we've gotten so far. We're trying to understand the relationship between these two warring factions that have been around forever. There's obviously some kind of a conspiracy that we've been slowly uncovering this entire time. There's a new power set or ability shared between these two beings that we see inside of here. We don't exactly know what that means. We're trying to find some answers. We're getting some more Easter eggs in the Energon universe and whatnot. So that's kind of cool to see that stuff happen if you're really into the know and you know these characters and where they've been and where they're going to go, things like that. You're going to dig some of that stuff. But if you're still on the learning path for all that, you might not get all the subtleties that are inside of this book. But it continues to be a really interesting book. Again, I keep calling it the foundational book for the Energon universe because that's kind of how it's been portrayed so far, that eventually all this is going to make sense and it's going to bring a lot of these different factions together in some cool way. But this book is definitely not like as flashy as G.I. Joe or Transformers or anything. It has a totally different vibe to it. I feel like it's being developed into a book that's going to take a long time to play out. Think Walking Dead. We're talking like 100+ issues to kind of really get to where we're going. I think that's where we're going to be going with a book like Void Rivals. So we have issue number 14 out right now. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Tin Can Society issue number 3 from Peter Warren continues to be a solid detective kind of book right here. We have somebody that was part of a gang of kids back in the day. He was disabled. He actually uses some technology to turn himself into like this Iron Man type character. He eventually gets taken out, so it turns into a big detective story about like maybe it was one of his old school friends, something like that. A lot of jealousy, a lot of complicated relationships spun out of all that as they grow up. But he also gained a lot of enemies as well, so we're trying to figure all this stuff out. Issue number 3 right here really focuses on the relationship between our two main characters essentially right here. You know, how it really got out of control, and maybe this guy had some secrets that he shared with our other characters that we're now trying to uncover, see if it's relevant to his murder. So Tin Can Society, if you're into those detective stories, you want some whodunit kind of questions in your comics, you might want to check this one out. Issue number 3 is out. Let me know if you read it. All right, next up from Image Comics, we have Grommets issue number 6. This series does a great job of just building that tension. And in this issue here, it escalates at an all-time high. And I'm going to be so sad. We only got one more issue to go. But man, this was an action-packed, drama-filled issue for sure. Those jocks that crashed our party in the previous issues, it keeps escalating and it gets more and more dangerous throughout this issue. You are actually fearful for the main characters in this book. You don't exactly know how it's going to end. They do a really good job of raising that tension in here. The art and coloring inside this book is spectacular as well. Bright, vibrant, but lots of detail, lots of like grunginess. Everything is dirty. It fits the mood of the book so well. So great creative team all the way around, telling a pretty interesting, dramatic story set in the past. So yeah, if you want a dangerous, like slice of life kind of a comic from the 80s, Grommets issue number 6 is spectacular. Make sure to check it out in collected edition when it's all said and done. All right, let's talk about Universal Monster Frankenstein issue number 4. We have Michael Walsh on here and Toni Marie Griffin. Spectacular finish to this series. You know, what this book does spectacularly well is if you've been reading all of these single issues, there are all these really quiet moments inside of here, and you get to see those little moments, those little panels repeat issue to issue, and it kind of like connects you to the whole story, connects you to the monster, right? Because like that monster is perceiving these little moments and recreating them into the future, trying to apply lessons learned, trying to have fun, but ultimately causes heartbreak and causes panic in the community, and things lead in a pretty predictable manner, I would say. So of course we got that mob mentality ending in here. We have some closure with the little boy and the fact that, you know, the Frankenstein monster has a part of his father with him, as a bunch of other people as well. We get to see the community reach out. We get to see what happens to our doctor and whatnot. So there's a lot of characters in here that we kind of touch base with, and everything is just so beautiful and poetic, and I just loved everything about it. There's so many cool scenes inside this book. book. Again, tons of quiet moments. And like I mentioned, if you've been reading all of them, everything seems to connect perfectly inside of here. So again, another spectacular book from the Universal Monsters line right here from Image. I would say Dracula and this one are must reads. Maybe kind of skip out on the Creature from the Black Lagoon, but this one was really solid. Let me know if you read it. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, we have issue number 6 out this week. Love this issue, really big fan of this entire series, and I like how we're building out this world even more. So I mean, we started with just some warriors washing up on a beach, joining this like gang of other warriors from across time, fighting this endless horde of like monsters from this cave, and we have a bunch of complications around that, and loyalties are shifting around and whatnot. So our main characters are exploring the world a little bit more, and they're coming across other interesting characters. So we're getting backstory on all these weird people, and we're learning a little bit more about this land as well. Like, what else is out there? How do you escape this land? Like, what are the sacrifices needed? What kind of journey do you need to go on to get to the next stage? And we're exploring that inside of here. So the first half of this book, we get a little bit more about that, exploring the world a little bit more, what's possible in this world, who are the other people in here. The second half of this book is all about that falling in love part on the path to hell. So we get plenty of embracing towards the end of this book, something that we've been waiting to see now for quite some time. We made it all the way to issue number 6 before we got it, but we did, and it was awesome. So issue number 6, Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. I think it's still worth it. Let me know if you're reading it down below. All right, guys, that's all I read this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you read and what your favorite books of the week were down below. While you're down there, like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted whenever I put out new videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.